you don't know what you don't know, right? You don't, if you don't know that this stuff is possible, and you're listening to this testimonial now, give it a try, because you're probably going to find you're going to, at the very least, be able to save money every year in terms of what you're paying out to people with stuff that should just be done automatically. So, never, what's the word, how to phrase this eloquently, I guess. Yeah, you don't know what you don't know, and in a lot of ways automation could really streamline a lot of stuff in your business in ways that you might not even be able to imagine. And that alone is the reason why, really, jump on that call, do that audit, go through the process of it, and just see, just take that first step and look, because chances are you are probably doing way more work than you have to be. And this is how all the best businesses in the world are running. My name is Tom. I am the owner of Archon Research Group. And what we do is we specialize in outsourced content writing services, a lot of the time for digital products and then digital agencies as well, some search engine optimization stuff as well. The point here is we really will crank out pretty much dozens of pieces of content every day, sometimes thousands of pieces a month. And there's a whole lot of moving parts that go into a very human service-based business like that. There's a lot of things that have to happen in order for that whole flow to take place. And that's really where Ops Kings has come in handy and has really been indispensable to the entire operation in streamlining the actual delivery of the work to the client, and then the work streamlining the work from the actual client to the contractor, and then to the contractor back to the client as well. So that is really when they've been absolutely indispensable in helping us grow our business.
Awesome. So we met a few years ago. It was like I think it was on 2020, October-ish 2020, which is like, 3.5 years ago now. And at the time, okay, so tell us like how big your business was. And then you had and I remember the conversation vaguely. You thought you had like a staffing problem or like a leadership problem, where like a training problem, because your business is extremely seasonal. So, how many people did you have at that time, and then what was the problem you were facing, and like what did you think the problem was that you were facing, and then we'll kind of go from there.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely. So at the time, I was very convinced that I was working with people who were ineffectual, or I didn't have enough of them. I think that was probably the big thing, is I thought that, because one person wasn't doing their job particularly well, I needed to go and find another person who could do it better than them, who could somehow work, superhuman capabilities, because that's just totally out there. I thought that was possible, or I thought that I just needed more of them. But really, after, maybe a 20-minute conversation with Ryan, I realized that I had an issue with my business systems, and ultimately those business systems were going to be built on automation. Basically, long story short, I realized from working with you and then working with your whole team is that in reality, a lot of the stuff that I had people doing should be done essentially by automation, which would then free up their time, their cognitive abilities to and actually work on the things that people really need to do. And then ultimately performance as a whole skyrocketed from there. So we thought we had a people problem. We really had a systems problem. And then whenever it comes down to it, those systems are built on the types of automation that Ops Kings really specializes in.
Yeah. So real quick for the people at home, how big was your business when we started working together in terms of number of people and revenue? And what is it at now? Because I think the size of your business now is like, actually, it's phenomenal, but it wasn't always that way, right? And I think we recorded another video like this, which is up on our website somewhere, where you're basically talking about how you were like very strongly considering shutting down your business because you didn't see a way to do it profitably at all at that stage. So tell us more about that.
Yeah,
there's a lot of people that are like in that position now, right? With they just don't have hope for their business.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I guess the first thing I can say to that is if you've come across a market that works, and you have a viable product, find a way to make it work, because that is ultimately the hardest thing in business, is finding something that works. I didn't realize that at the time. So yes, at one point I was ready to just kind of pull the cord on my writing company. At that time I had one VA, and then I had 6 writers. And then since then it's grown to, I have what you could basically refer to as 7 full-time VAs, and then a team of 60 writers right now. So, let's call that a 6x growth from just the staffing perspective. And then if we're going to talk about numbers and revenue at that time, realistically, we were probably pulling down about maybe $120,000 of top line revenue at that point. Now we're more like $500,000 per year.
Right. Yeah. So I mean, like, not a lot of people have actually managed, like, there's operations and leadership, and there's like, you have 60 people working for you, and they're all VAs that they all get paid based on the project, right? Like a project base, and it's all, so there's like, it's like Amazon, like there's lots of like, it's like lots of things happening very quickly, pretty like not crazy. It's not like a coaching business where there's insane margins. Like they're like pretty, I mean, your project sizes are not thousands of dollars, and but like logistically you have a very complex business now. Talk us through some of the automations and like the systems that were the most impactful. Actually, one thing that'd be interesting as well is like, there was a couple things that we built out where actually your team was convinced that it wasn't even technically possible to do. Right. Like like the auto suggest thing for distributing projects to writers.
Yeah.
I don't know if they thought the same about the quality stuff, but talk us through some of those things. Because like I do think like most people are never going to have a 60-person company, like ever.
Yeah.
But like I think the example of like, or the mindset of thinking like, I'm not even sure this is even possible, to seeing it work is an interesting one.
Well, for what it's worth, I was convinced of some of that stuff too. I mean, I think that as you go through this whole process of systemizing and automating your business, you have to let go of a lot of limiting beliefs. And what's cool is you kind of have to open up your mind a little bit to what's actually possible. So, before we started doing this, I did not know that it was possible that a new row could be created in Google Sheets when an email comes in containing all the information. I didn't know that. I didn't think that was possible. I thought. But
you had to have a Filipino VA do that manual, and I was like, "It's like really like, right?"
I mean, I was just a guy on a computer, So for what it's worth, I had a fair amount of those as well. But even something as simple as that, you don't realize that like manual data transfer is like not only possible, but one of the most simple tasks you could realistically do. And a lot of the stuff is only limited by your imagination, to now where you and me are talking about new features that I could implement in my business that you could then implement across your other clients as well. So, for what it's worth, all I'm saying is that, there is a process of like just trying to, be imaginative and understand what's actually possible. If in a perfect world, how would your business function? And then that's almost a good place to kind of start and then work backwards from, because you might be surprised a lot of those things that you dream up in your head might actually be possible. Speaking specifically to the example of auto suggest. So if I was to talk any potential viewers to what that is so basically we have a content writing company. We write about content of all sorts of different topics. Okay. So for instance, let's say that we have, one article that is about engineering, and then another article that is about whey protein and nutrition, right? Well, of those 60 people, there's going to be one guy who's kind of a gym bro who knows a bunch of stuff about whey protein and, has spent his own time learning it. And we probably know that because we gathered that information through the interview process. And then we have one person who is, very book smart and understands engineering well. And then ultimately those two pieces of content need to go to different people, right? So previously we were relying again on, relatively lower paid Filipino virtual assistants to make this very cognitively demanding decision at scale every single time, multiple times a day.
Yeah, like up to 100 times a day is just, well, actually.
Yeah, and you just can't expect anybody to like people are just people. You can't expect them to be perfect.
But actually, they thought that it had to be actually, that's not even so there's topics is one thing, but there's also like availability and like who's on holiday, who's got like planned holiday, who's sick, who is like fastest at responding to projects last time, who is like the best quality score.
Right. So speaking specifically to all that stuff, basically just for everybody at home, there are, there's just a whole bunch of different factors to weigh in whenever we're deciding who actually gets what. For instance, like you said, Ryan, if someone's consistently late and never turns stuff in on time, well, why would we keep giving them work, right? Now, the automation that we created in our business factors all of that stuff in, and then makes a very logical weighted decision about realistically who's going to be the best writer based on all those available variables. And then whenever we first brought that up to my staff, it was very strange. They actually resisted it. Like they argued about it. They didn't want it. And we had to say, guys, like this is going to save you a decision every day. This is going to make your lives easier. Just trust us. And then, basically like 2 weeks into it, they were like, yeah, you're right. We don't want to go back. Keep it. It's working.
Right.
And it made their own lives easier. So it was one of these cool things where, we had a bit of it holistically benefited the whole business in terms of service delivery, quality output, timeliness, reducing decision fatigue on our own staff. Things like that really can benefit every single level of your business, and they just would not be possible without automation, and then really without a skilled partner in doing so, like Ryan and his team at Ops Kings. That's the most conclusive way I could phrase that.
Yeah.
I think.
So talk a little bit about like our relationship, because it's not like, I think like what's been interesting about how you've evolved too is like, and I explain this process to like a lot of people when they ask about like what can be automated in the business. And I always tell them like, what's going to happen is we're going to automate like the 5 things that are obvious right now. And then what's going to happen after that is you're going to have so much more like mental bandwidth, and you'll just come up with ideas on your own, because all of a sudden you're not fighting fires anymore. You can think creatively. So, talk to us about, because I know you've told me that that's happened. I've observed that happening in you, where the level of your thinking has been like really has gotten more sophisticated over the years. So talk to us about like that experience of what it's like automating the obvious stuff, and then having like space to think about the business versus just like tackling problems day to day.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. So, as any business owner knows, you're going to deal with a lot of problems, right? Stuff is always going to happen, and people are going to be looking to you for solutions to those problems. The worst place to be in a business, in my opinion, is when you are constantly, fighting fires or constantly putting out fires, right? Which in reality means you just haven't created necessary systems to actually, prevent that stuff from happening. You don't want to be a firefighter. You want to be a fire prevention specialist, right? As one famous author often says when talking about this stuff. So the cool thing about freeing up your mind to work on other stuff is once that layer of like stress and anxiety and dread is gone of, oh no, I got to deal with this problem again. Once you know that an automation is in place, and obviously, maybe 2 weeks of testing and, making sure everything's working properly, then you kind of find yourself in a place where running a business can actually be fun. Running a business can actually become a little bit of a form of art, because then you get to actually employ your creative mind towards fixing more sophisticated problems, or really just improving your overall service offering in the first place. Now, this especially lends itself to my business, which is a service-based business made up of dozens of people. But even in a context of having just a few high-ticket coaching clients, or even with a side offer that I run, specifically in the course space, you begin to think about all these different ways that your business can be improved, and ultimately how people can be involved less, machines involved more, and then ultimately it's just a win for everybody. You save money by not paying out unnecessary salaries. You save yourself stress, you save potential employees stress, because you're only going to be hiring people who are doing the really important stuff that really do require something to think about. But who knows, with AI, maybe that won't even be necessary in the next few years anyway. We don't know that either. So it's freeing up your head to work on stuff allows you to approach your business like an art, as opposed to, some menial task that you have to, just slug through every day. And, coming from an artistic background myself, that's probably been one of my favorite things about the business, is when I get to sit down with someone like Ryan and talk through a problem we're having. And then we both just kind of get to think out loud about the different way to approach it. It's almost like, it's like playing Sudoku or jujitsu or something like that. It's a really fun, cognitively demanding task that I didn't think I would enjoy as much as I do, but that's probably one of my favorite things I do with Ryan now, is talk about how we fix problems.
Yeah. And you're really good. I mean, you've said before that like, it's interesting, like you like label yourself sometimes as like not a mathematical person, but like the way that you actually think through things is quite, I think you would have honestly kicked ass at math had you had like a good teacher, a good math teacher in school.
Yeah.
Right. Cause like
Yeah.
like you're very structured in that way. Yeah, dude. Awesome. Is there anything else that you want to share with people if they're considering either for people that know there's problems in their business that know they need to automate stuff,
Yeah.
or like, and they have some ideas of stuff they want to automate, or like they know they should be automated first, or people that are just like overall feel like their business could be moving like in a more efficient way. They feel like they should have better KPIs and metrics, and they just feel like there should be an easier way to do things. What would you say to them, having gone through yourself?
Oh,
right?
man. Oh, man, I could say so much about this. So, with my business in particular, the big thing that happened with me is that I became good at, doing the service offering in my business. I'm a pretty good writer, and I became okay at management. But in learning those skills, I really didn't know anything about automation or anything of that sort, right? I just kind of understood the general framework of human outsourcing, right? Throw a body at a problem, give them a manual, and then it's fixed. Hopefully, it's not, and you hire another body. I guess the scary thing to think about, and this applies to other areas of life too, is you don't know what you don't know, right? You don't if you don't know that this stuff is possible, and you're listening to this testimonial now, give it a try, because you're probably going to find you're going to at the very least be able to save money every year in terms of what you're paying out to people with stuff that should just be done automatically. So, never, what's the word, how to phrase this eloquently, I guess. Yeah, you don't know what you don't know, and in a lot of ways automation could really streamline a lot of stuff in your business in ways that you might not even be able to imagine. And that alone is the reason why really, jump on that call, do that audit, go through the process of it, and just see, just take that first step and look, because chances are you are probably doing way more work than you have to be, and this is how all the best businesses in the world are running. So, take a little page out of the book of the professionals and try it out, because it was one of the best decisions I've ever made in my whole business life. So for what that's worth, I often think about, if I had not realized that this stuff was possible and not had such a great, tech partner with Ryan and his team at Ops Kings, my business would be in a completely different place. So it was one of the best decisions I made, and I encourage every person who's considering it, walk through that door, try it out.
Thanks, Tom. Appreciate you, man. I think
You got it.
that's pretty much it. Any closing words? You gotta come up with something else. Now it's gotta be another thing. And remember, right, kids, so, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
The last thing I'll say, the last thing I'll say is, the character of the people you work with really matters, and that is one area that I can completely trust Ryan and anybody he's working with on. They have access to a lot of sensitive data on my side. Maybe we should cut that last part.
Cut out the part about
back Ryan.
I don't know. It's just, yeah. Oh no, it's not that sensitive. I'm gonna leave it. No. I'm gonna leave it. What are they gonna do? I mean, all right. Everybody has sensitive data. You can get my bank card.
Okay. The broader point I'm trying to make here is that Ryan is a stand-up, very great,
thank you.
trustworthy person.
The intent was...
And while I appreciate that in someone I'm interacting with, there's 100% a huge amount of business utility to only working with people whose heads are in the right place, who have good intentions, and who are rowing in the right direction. And that is 100% something that I can say without a doubt about Ryan. I can't say that about everybody in my business network, but I can 100% say that about Ryan. And having amazing, trustworthy people on your team who have a good heart and good intentions, that is absolutely priceless. And that is one thing that him and his team 100% have on lock. So if I just want to close out with anything, that would certainly be it.
Cheers. Appreciate you, Dom. See you.
You got it, brother. You got it.